All right, guys, welcome to Phase 1 Primal Power Lifestyle. So I'm gonna go over the most important points on Phase 1, which is ideally 30 days. So that this is a 90-day reset, ideally. When I say ideally, if you follow these proven steps, 30-day phases. So Phase 1, 30 days, I call that the elimination phase. And I'll get more into that on why that is. And this phase here is all about situational awareness, meaning creating the correct choices. Because once you can learn the correct choices, then the following phase, the next 30 days, now feeds off of the first foundational 30 days. Everything feeds off of one another. Every phase has a purpose, and then everything inside that phase has an actual purpose to feed off of one another, enhance each other to get you to the 90 days, which is lifelong predictable results. So that being said, phase 1, the elimination phase, is a superpower when you follow this program. Here's what I mean. You don't want to take away from the superpower that's naturally there with the elimination when it comes to what you're going to consume, which is going to be whole foods, animal protein, animal fat, and I'll get deeper into that. But what I mean by that is the first thing we want to talk about to set you up for success is the mindset, the paradigm shifting that's going to need to take place in order for you to actually see this through and get those lifelong predictable results, which is the end goal. So now you can share that with other people and nobody ever has to fish for you again. So in order to do that, there's mental conditioning that's been building your whole life around food, around your physical capabilities, around what you believe is your physical barriers and what you believe is your identity. We're gonna now shift that because that's gotta be the foundation. Without that, everything else becomes short term, and that's not the goal here. That's not the purpose of Primal Power Lifestyle. So the mindset, and one of the first things we're gonna talk about, and I have an actual a worksheet on this, is called the 7 levels deep. What that is that takes you to your mission statement, right? Every successful business has some sort of mission statement, has a purpose. So why wouldn't you personally want and have a mission statement? And which, another word for that would be why, your why. But why stop there? Why not go? What I've learned, I learned 7 levels deep from Dean Graziosos, and he learned it from a Joe Polish. That's who it was, this marketing guru back probably, 15 years ago, had a real big name. He probably still does in the marketing and branding world. Dean had hired him, and the first thing they did was 7 levels deep. Now Dean shared that with his audience. I learned that from Dean. So this is 7 levels deep. And when you see the worksheet, you'll understand when you can get to that 7th level of your mission statement, of your why, everything opens up. Everything opens up, and that also allows you to go back to that 7th level when you hit those obstacles, when you hit those plateaus, to remind yourself why you're even on this journey. It's a huge game changer. That's why I start with this. And one of the things that the 7 levels deep also does is eliminates what I call the initial self-sabotage. The initial self-sabotage, and I hear this so much. I hear this the majority of the time, actually. When I start talking about the first phase and the elimination, people's tendency is to go to that self-sabotage, and they focus on the foods that they're not gonna have for that first month versus the feelings that they're actually gonna experience. Let me explain. So in the first phase, it's all about whole foods, and specifically animal protein, animal fat, and ideally animal protein from beef, animal protein from whole eggs, animal fat from the marbling in the beef, the animal fat from the egg yolks, the whole butter, and potentially raw milk if you can get your hands on that. That's for the first 30 days. Ideally, if you can live on that, it becomes the ultimate elimination phase, because now not only are we getting rid of and eliminating the processed foods, the simple sugars, the poisons, but we're also and the carbohydrates, but we're also eliminating even some of the animal proteins that just aren't as nutrient dense. So we're living on a calorie deficit with a nutrient surplus. And what happens is that's where this all of a sudden 3-4 days in, within a week, most people, including myself, just woke up one day in that 7-day window and you're just blown away by the mental clarity, the mental sharpness that you have. The reason Primal Power Lifestyle exists is because 5 years ago, I just said to myself, man, I know that I can take this to another level. I just don't know what that looks like. And within, for me, it was in the first 3 days, but within the first 7 days, the mental clarity literally hit me like a Mack truck in such a great way. And then by the 7th day, my cravings, which I never could get rid of my cravings my whole life, even as a kid, were crushed. So then I said, you know what? I need to figure out not only how to do this, but why. And that's the end goal for Primal Power Lifestyle. I'm going to teach you how to do it, but just as important, why you're doing it, because now that becomes lifelong. So the 7 levels deep, it just takes you behind that black curtain of yourself. It takes that mission statement, that why, to a whole nother level, which now, when you can rely on that, you start to become bulletproof. No matter what's thrown at you, you look at that 7th level, and you're like, that's why I'm here. That's what this whole journey is all about. That's what this purpose is all about. So the phase 1 is setting up that bulletproof mindset, that bulletproof paradigm as we're shifting. That's what's going to be long term. Second are the foods. Again, I'm talking ideally. The best case scenario: Celtic salt, Redmond sea salt, beef, red meat, both fatty and non-fatty. So ribeyes, tri-tip, more on the fatty end, London broil, New York strips, more sirloins, more on the less fatty, ground beef, higher fat, medium, lower fat, right? You can get 3 different levels of the ground beef. Whole eggs, not just the egg whites. That in the bodybuilding world, that's what I grew up with, is the egg whites. But when you incorporate the whole eggs, the fatty meat, and even the leaner meats, along with the whole eggs and the whole butter, or the real butter, or the ghee, now you start to become, you create an elimination, but then you also start to become what's called fat adapted, which now your body's utilizing the fats as fuel. It's phenomenal. The way nature intended us to live is absolutely phenomenal. And some of the supplements we're going to talk about in phase 1 are electrolytes, 100%. I have recommendations, electrolytes that I've been using. There's plenty out there, but we're going to look at that situational awareness and understand what's in them and what's going to be the best choices for us. Again, it's all about correct choices in phase 1. Meal plans. I have worksheets, right? Meal plans for phase 1 for men, meal plans for phase 1 for women. Because where most women fall down and are misled and misguided is they're not taking in nearly enough animal protein and animal fat in each meal. And when you can break through that paradigm, and it's so mental, right? Women were so conditioned to think low fat, skinless grilled chicken, boiled rice, and steamed vegetables. It can't be any further from the truth. It's about whole fatty foods, whole fatty animal protein, animal fats. Now feed and you keep you in a nutrient surplus. So now your cravings are crushed and you just feel better mentally and physically, and you naturally now can build and maintain lean, hard, athletic muscle, which is what we all want for that physical and mental freedom in our everyday lives. And the weekly workouts, See, the weekly workouts, and this is just an overview, I'm gonna break down in each video, but the weekly workouts, I've now condensed this lifestyle to where I have 2 full body workouts, A on Monday, B on Friday, typically. Now you could interchange them, but they're 15 minutes at a time, full body, no gym, no weights, no machines, all bands, or you can, if you don't have the bands, I use a piece of equipment called X3. If you don't have them, it doesn't stop you from starting. You can mimic those same exercises, the same routine with body weight. And I also have videos on that. So it doesn't matter, you start now and you start with these steps. Weekly stretching. So I'm doing resistance training that's allowing me at 57 years old to build and maintain lean, hard athletic muscle with 2 workouts a week, 15 minutes at a time. But those other mornings, and I do lives every morning on the Primal Pack membership. I also, on those other mornings, so the other 5 mornings, including Sundays, right? Which is, I call it the freedom stretch. It's 10-minute full body stretching, and there's a purpose to all that. We focus on the bottom part, our waist down, the hamstrings, the glutes, the hips, and the groin area. Secondary is gonna be the calves and the quads. Waist up, shoulders, chest. Open up those shoulders, open up that chest, get that oxygen, that blood flow, that breathing, that flexibility, that functional strength, the balance is about the freedom stretching on those 5 days. Then we talk about 30-minute walks somewhere during your day, and the 10-minute post-meal walk as much as you can to help regulate the blood sugars, get the oxygen flow, the blood flow. And here's the other thing about walks. These are just steady walks. They're not power walks. They don't have to be power walks. You don't have to have a backpack on. You don't have to have extra weight. If you want to, great. But it's about just getting out, getting the vitamin D, getting outside, breathing that air in, that fresh oxygen. And what I call motion therapy is when you're walking, it just clears your head. And all of a sudden, the ideas and the thoughts that have been being blocked when you're inside, when you're in your office, when you're in your room, that seems to be blocked. Once you get outside into nature, once you get outside into the natural environment, it just opens everything up. I guess it opens up your chakra, if you want to call it that. But it just realigns you to your primal instincts, to your primal DNA. That's really what it comes down to. Again, everything from nutrition to conditioning to rest and recovery has a purpose in phase 1. And each one of these things that I'm talking about, there's a video that goes deeper on this. But that's phase 1. That's the overall on Primal Power Lifestyle. And remember, we focus on the three pillars of the 3 phases. Number 1, nutrition. Number 2, conditioning. And number 3, rest and recovery. So to sum up, phase 1, when you get everything that I just talked about in alignment and start to incorporate that in your daily life, the rest and recovery, the deep sleep naturally comes. Just like intermittent fasting, naturally you default into intermittent fasting, usually within 1 to 2 weeks, depending on where you're at coming into this. But if you follow these steps to the T for the first month, I guarantee you will default into intermittent fasting, which rejuvenates your cells, mental clarity, lean muscle, fat burning machine. And then also you start to get into a much deeper, consistent sleep, which is rest and recovery. And then all of a sudden, as we're going into phase 2, because remember, everything feeds off of one another. Phase 2, all of a sudden, you're getting into that deep sleep, but then you're realizing, man, I actually need less of this because it's a deeper quality versus quantity. Everything starts to fall into place if you're willing to trust this process. If you're willing to trust this process, I got the crystal ball. I'm telling you how you're gonna feel in the time frame of when you're gonna feel it. And the only way I can do that is I lived it and I am currently living it. So that's phase one. Take a look at phase two, that's coming up.